Good day everyone, let's learn about air pollution, in Chapter 3. Before I start talk about air pollution, let's learn about Earth atmosphere first. Earth atmosphere consists a mixture of gases that forms a layer about 400 kilometers thick, around the Earth. At the bottom, 7 to 16 kilometers contains most of the air. Around 75%. So, what is air pollution? Air pollution is the presence of chemicals in the atmosphere, in quantities and duration, that are harmful to human health and the environment. Or, can define as any atmospheric condition in which substances are present at concentrations above their normal ambient levels to produce measurable adverse effect on man, animal, vegetation, or materials. Gas, or a liquid, or solid dispersed through ordinary air, released in a big enough quantity to harm the health of people, or other animals, kill plants, or stop them growing properly, damage, or cause some other kind of nuisance. This can reduce visibility, perhaps, or an unpleasant odor. Any atmospheric condition in which certain substances are present in such concentrations that they can produce undesirable effects on man and his environment. These substances include gases such as sulfur oxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon oxide, hydrocarbons, and, etc., particulate matter, smoke, dust, fumes, aerosols, radioactive materials, and many other pollutants. Most of these substances are naturally present in the atmosphere in low or background concentrations and are usually considered to be harmless. Air pollution is a problem of obvious importance in most of the world that affects human, plant, and animal health. Type of pollutants. Two major types, primary pollutant and secondary pollutant. Primary pollutant can be defined as the pollutant are emitted directly into the atmosphere by a particular source. Some examples: volatile organic compounds, such as gases from evaporating gasoline. Carbon monoxide, which is an odorless gas that is produced by combustion. NOx, which includes nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide. Sulfur dioxide, produced through the combustion of coal. Particulate matter, small suspended particles. Lead, used to add to our gasoline. The other type is secondary pollutant. This type of pollutant consists of primary pollutants that combine with other chemicals in the atmosphere and produce. NOx can produce nitric acid. Sulfur dioxide can produce sulfuric acid. Ozone, which is produced through chemical reactions between nitrogen dioxide, VOCs, and sunlight. Not all air pollution is come from anthropogenic activities. When we think of pollution, we tend to think it's a problem that humans cause through ignorance or stupidity. Some kinds of air pollution are produced naturally. Forest fires, erupting volcanoes, and gases released from radioactive decay of rocks inside Earth are just 3 examples of natural air pollution that can have hugely disruptive effects on people and the planet. There are several major classes of air pollutant. 1. Carbon oxides. Sources of carbon oxide come from incomplete combustion of fossil fuels, transportation, industry, and home heating. Carbon dioxide is an important greenhouse gas. 2. Sulfur oxides, mainly sulfur dioxide. The sources come from combustion of coal and oil, especially coal. Sulfur oxide can react with other gases in atmosphere to form sulfuric acid, one type of acid rain. 3. nitrogen oxides, nitric oxide, and nitrogen dioxide. Source come from motor vehicles and industry, such as burning fossil fuels. This type can react with other gases in atmosphere to form nitric acid, also one type of acid rain. Volatile organic compounds, VOC, hydrocarbons, consist of methane, benzene, propane, and chlorofluorocarbons, CFC. Sources come from motor vehicles, evaporation from gas tanks, industry activities, and various household products surrounding us. Many organic compounds are known to cause cancer in animals, some are suspected of causing, or are known to cause, cancer in humans. Suspended particulate matter, SPM. Sources come from power plants, iron/steel mills, land clearing, highway construction, mining, and other activities that disturb or disrupt the Earth's surface. Solid particles, such as dust, soot, and asbestos, and liquid droplets, such as pesticides. Toxic compounds. Trace amounts of at least 600 toxic substances, such as lead and mercury, produced by human activities nowadays. The metals is stored in the fish tissue and is passed on at increasing concentrations to larger predator fish. People and wildlife at the top of the food chain are consequently exposed to elevated amounts of metals through the contaminated fish they consume. Photochemical oxidants. The presence of hydrocarbons and nitrogen oxide in sunlight with little air movement leads to the generation of ozone. These two compounds are produced by cars, trucks, factories, and power-generating plants, or wherever gasoline, diesel fuel, kerosene, oil, or natural gas are combusted. These gases combine together with sunlight, producing ozone. Lastly, smog. Smog forms from mixture of primarily nitrogen oxides, from vehicles, volatile organic compounds, and sunlight. It is a complex mixture of gases, but primarily ozone. What are the causes of air pollution? Anything people do that involves burning things, combustion, using household or industrial chemicals, substances that cause chemical reactions, and may release toxic gases in the process, or producing large amounts of dust, has the potential to cause air pollution. Traffic. Do you know that there are over 1 billion cars on the road today, one for every 2 people in rich countries? Virtually all of them are powered by gasoline and diesel engines that burn petroleum to release energy. Petroleum is made up of hydrocarbons, large molecules built from hydrogen and carbon, and, in theory, burning them fully with enough oxygen should produce nothing worse than carbon dioxide and water. In practice, fuels aren't pure hydrocarbons, and engines don't burn them cleanly. Mix this noxious cocktail together and energize it with sunlight, and you get the sometimes brownish, sometimes bluish fog of pollution that we call smog, which can hang over cities for days on end. Next is power plant. Renewable energy sources, such as solar panels and wind turbines, are helping us generate a bigger proportion of our power every year. But the overwhelming majority of electricity is still produced by burning fossil fuels, such as coal, gas, and oil, mostly in conventional power plants. Just like car engines, power plants should theoretically produce nothing worse than carbon dioxide and water. In practice, fuels are dirty, and they don't burn cleanly. So power plants produce a range of air pollutants, notably sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulates to the environment. They also release huge amounts of carbon dioxide, a key cause of global warming, and climate change when it rises and accumulates in the atmosphere. Industrial plants and factories. Plants that produce the goods we all rely on often release small but significant quantities of pollution into the air. Industrial plants that produce metals, such as aluminum and steel, refine petroleum, produce cement, synthesize plastic, or make other chemicals are among those that can produce harmful air pollution. Most plants that pollute release small amounts of pollution continually, over a long period of time, though the effects can be cumulative, or gradually building up. Sometimes industrial plants release huge amounts of air pollution, accidentally in a very short space of time. One notable case happened in Bhopal, India in December 1984, when a large chemical plant run by the Union Carbide Company released a poisonous gas, methyl isocyanate, that hung over the local area, killing around 3,000 people and injuring thousands. So, what are the effects of air pollution? Much evidence links air pollutants to respiratory and other diseases in humans. Wild and domestic animals probably affected in the same ways as humans. Plants can be damaged by ozone, sulfur dioxide, and acids. Ozone weakens pine needles and makes them more susceptible to insects and diseases. The effects of acid deposition on modern buildings are considerably less damaging than the effects on ancient monuments. Limestone and calcareous stones, which are used in most heritage buildings, are the most vulnerable to corrosion and need continued renovation or restoration. Evidence of the damaging effect of acid deposition can be seen throughout the world. For example, world-famous structures as the Taj Mahal, Cologne Cathedral, Notre Dame, the Colosseum and Westminster Abbey have all been affected. When we talk about air pollution, normally we will relate with global warming. Every time you ride in a car, turn on the lights, switch on your TV, take a shower, microwave a meal, or use energy that's come from burning a fossil fuel, such as oil, coal, or natural gas, you're almost certainly adding to the problem of global warming and climate change, unless it's been produced in some environmentally friendly way. The energy you're using has most likely released carbon dioxide gas into the air. While it's not an obvious pollutant, carbon dioxide has gradually built up in the atmosphere, along with other chemicals known as greenhouse gases. Together, these gases act a bit like a blanket surrounding our planet that is slowly making the mean global temperature rise, causing the climate, the long-term pattern of our weather, to change, and producing a variety of different effects on the natural world, including rising sea levels. How to solve the air pollution problems? One way to solve it is technological solutions. It's very easy to criticize power plants, factories, and vehicles that belch polluting gases into the atmosphere, but virtually all of us rely on these things. Ultimately, we are the people polluting. Solving air pollution is also a challenge because many people have a big investment in the status quo, carrying on with the world much as it is today. For example, it's easier for car makers to keep on making gasoline engines than to develop electric cars, or ones powered by fuel cells, that produce less pollution. The world has thousands of coal-fired power plants and hundreds of nuclear power stations, and, again, it's easier to keep those going than to create an entirely new power system based on solar panels, wind turbines, and other forms of renewable energy, though that is happening slowly. Just as technology has caused the problem of air pollution, so it can provide solutions. Cars with conventional gasoline engines are now routinely fitted with catalytic converters that remove some, though not all, of the pollutants from the exhaust gases. Power plants are fitted with electrostatic smoke precipitators that use static electricity to pull dirt and soot from the gases that drift up smokestacks. In time, it's likely that many older power plants will also be retrofitted with carbon capture systems that trap carbon dioxide to help reduce global warming. On a much smaller scale, environmentally friendly people who want to ventilate their homes without opening windows and wasting energy can install heat recovery ventilation systems, which use the heat energy locked in outgoing waste air to warm fresh incoming air. Common practice, law and regulation. Many once polluted cities now have relatively clean air and water, largely thanks to anti-pollution laws that introduced during the mid-20th century. In England, following the 1952 smog tragedy that killed thousands in the capital city of London, the government introduced its Clean Air Act of 1956, which restricted how and where coal could be burned, and where furnaces could be sited, and forced people to build smokestacks higher to disperse pollution. Other successful international laws include the Convention on Long-Range Transboundary Air Pollution, 1979, which has helped to reduce sulfur dioxide emissions from power plants and another approach is raising awareness among the communities. We pollute the environment without even realizing it. How many people know that taking a shower or ironing a shirt can release indoor air pollution from hot water that they immediately breathe in? For example, helping people to understand the causes and effects of pollution and what they can do to tackle the issue is very important. That's why I'm writing these words now, and probably why you're reading them. Air pollution isn't someone else's problem. All of us help to cause it, and we can all help to clean it up. Starting now. What can I do to help reduce air pollution? Save energy. Making electricity in conventional power plants generates pollution, so anything you can do to save energy will help to reduce pollution and global warming as well. Just remember this: every bit of energy you save also saves you money you can spend on something better. Cut the car. Sometimes we have to use cars, but often we can get a bus or a train or, for shorter distances, walk or cycle. Cars are now the biggest source of air pollution in most urban areas, so traveling some other way through a town or city helps to keep the air clean. When you have to use your car, drive efficiently to save fuel and money and cut pollution. It's particularly important to avoid car use when smog is bad in your city. Cut out garden bonfires. Did you know that a garden bonfire can contain up to 350 times as much of the cancer-causing chemical, benzpyrene, as cigarette smoke? Having a bonfire is one of the most selfish things you can do in your local neighborhood. Compost your garden refuse, bury it, or dispose of it some other way. Never burn household waste. If you burn plastic, you release horrible toxic chemicals into the local environment, some of which will be sucked up your own nose. So, recycle your trash instead. Garden organically. Would you spray pesticides on your dinner? So why spray them on your garden? You can tackle virtually all garden pests and diseases in more environmentally friendly organic ways. Cut the chemicals. Do you really need to spray an air freshener to make your home feel nice? Yes, you fill your room with perfume, but you're also choking it with chemical pollution. Why not just open a window instead? How many of the chemicals you buy do you really need to use? Reduce, reuse, and recycle. Buying new stuff is fun, but reusing old things can be just as good. Don't smoke. Cigarettes contain an addictive chemical called nicotine that makes you want to go on smoking them. They cause all kinds of health problems, but they also cause very localized air pollution. That's all for air pollution chapter. Thank you.